Yabona ma, there is no pain that compares to being a chosen one, knowing that you are the one who's been chosen to deliver your family, and you have been to hell and back so that you could grow in your power, grow in your spiritual gift, and grow and find your roots in what it is that you've been called to be and do, especially when it pertains to correcting ancestral baggage, ending generational curses, establishing generational blessings, and yet the very same family you're doing it for thinks you're nothing. They talk shit about you. You're the black sheep of the family. They don't even call to check up on you until they need something. No one ever wonders how you're doing unless they're calling you to ask for a favor. Life. Don't let that deter you. Don't let that break your heart. Remember, Uguti, King David, the man who was after God's heart in the Bible, God's beloved David, even he was the black sheep of the family. He was the one who was always isolated. In fact, when he was chosen king, his father, Jesse, presented all of his sons except for him. He left him in the fields watching his sheep because he didn't think David fit the part of being king. Kodwa uNkulunkulu masekhulumile wathi mina ngizikhethele lo. Wazi ukuthi vele laba okhule nabo, laba ekumele ngabe yibona abakuthandayo, laba ekumele ngabe obufise ngathi ngayibona abakuphushayo, are the very same ones who will turn their backs on you. Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers. Why? Because even when you don't realize what you're a chosen one, everybody else can see it. The light that is you shines nonetheless, whether or not you realize it, whether or not you're conscious of it. You see, I've had family members attack me, bewitch me, before I even knew Uguti I was carrying something. But they saw the light. They saw Uguti, and so remember that. Uguti, just because you don't know who you are doesn't mean that everybody else doesn't know who you are. You see, Joseph was a dreamer, and he would go and share his dreams with his brothers and mom and dad, and they knew what his dreams meant, but because he didn't have the gift of dream interpretation just yet, he didn't know what he was talking about. He didn't know what he was busy exposing himself to people who didn't wish him well, to people who didn't want him to get ahead of them because they were low-key competing with him. And so they sold him into slavery. They thought, we can't allow this man to become king when we are nothing. We can't allow him to become better than us. No, our dad already favors him, so let's get rid of him. They got rid of him. Little did they know, Uguti, when famine hit, Joseph, the one they sold into slavery, the one they thought was dead, was the very same one who was going to save them. There was the very same one who had become king, and from which they had to get food to survive. So remember that, Uguti, Vele, if you're a chosen one, you're different. You're never going to fit in. Stop trying to. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to fit in. Go on YouTube. Look at videos at how kings and queens are raised. Prince William and Prince Harry are not raised the same way you and I were raised, baby. Because they were raised for royalty. They eat from the time they're born, they're conditioned to think a certain way. They're conditioned to behave a certain way. But not all of us are raised in a palace. Not all of us are born in a palace. Some of us have to grow up out of dirt and become someone. And so in your becoming that person, realize, Uguti, it's going to be a lonely journey. And the only people who can understand you are the people who are in a similar predicament as you. So I'm talking to those people. Ngoba ngiyazi, I've been there. I've been there. Where you have your parents hate you and you if this is how you're going to treat me. How can I be your child and you're low-key competing with me? How is it that angilutho emehlweni akho kodwa masekushubela uyabuza ucela usizo kimi? How is it that namhlanje angilutho kepha when you need dream interpretation you remember who I am? When you need to understand something spiritual you remember who I am? When you need a blessing and your prayers have only gotten you so far, you remember, okay, maybe I can ask usisando sisanda ngiphahlele. It's the craziest thing, but hang in there. God has got your back. Pray. That's how you win. That is who you get to run to, God. And I know it sounds crazy because we can't see God, and sometimes you really just need a hug. Sometimes you really just need to have a human conversation with someone who understands what you're going through. And there are people like me who are open for that. But while you're trying to find those people, pray. Go back into the secret place, get on your knees and pray. Pour your heart out. Exactly how you feel. Don't be shy about it. He says, cast your burdens on me. Cast your cares on me because I care for you. He cares for you. He cares for you. The ones that you're hoping one day will understand what they're not even halfway where you are. That's why they need you in the first place. That's why you had to grow up and come from that family in the first place. Because they need you. They need what you have. And so they're not going to understand you because you represent something that they've never seen. You represent something they don't understand. And in most cases, they hate on you because you represent something that they desire to have. And so they're jealous because they haven't realized that they too have a part of that inside of them. But instead of them working on awakening that aspect of themselves, the best that they can do is stoop low and hate on you. You who's doing the work. You who's conscious about who they are. You who actually has a kind heart. Don't let them change your kind heart. God's got you. Pray. Pray. Let prayer be your weapon. Let it be your saving grace. Let it be that cushion you fall on. Pray. Understand that if the Lord Jesus Christ has chosen you to carry out his commission in this world, and God is indeed a God who funds his projects, then your help does not come from man. Your help is not going to come from the very same place that needs your power. You see, when David was chosen to be king, his family thought of him as nothing. Even the king at the time, King Saul, was out for his life. But Saul's son, Jonathan, was David's soulmate in the sense that he had such a love and passion for David that he would betray his father to protect David. Okay? When Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers, his favor came from the palace, from Potiphar. Potiphar, who promoted him from prison to basically being second in command from him. Potiphar essentially gave Joseph as much power as he had. He just didn't have the throne because he was still sitting on it. So it's the same thing. You need to think of it like that as well. My power cannot come from the place that needs deliverance. Because the whole reason I'm being raised to power is so I can go back and pull those people out of the dungeon and open those eyes of the blinds and set those captives free. So your family is going to hate on you. So your family is going to think you're nothing because you represent something they just don't understand. Even Moses, actually, in order to deliver the children of Israel, Moses had to be given up by his mother when he was 3 months old and be raised in the palace. The same palace that would be what he goes against in order to carry out God's commission. But your help will never come from the people you need to deliver. It will come from the top. Because God has already worked out the end. Just trust the process.